Hi, everybody. It's Adele Frizzell here, and I'm with
Tiffany here.
and
Elizabeth.
great. So it is lovely to see everybody here. We're going to be talking about reverse dieting, why we recommend reverse dieting if you've done a very low calorie diet, how that process works, and then Elizabeth is going to be sharing her experience with reverse dieting because you've done 3 weeks of reverse dieting so far, right, Elizabeth?
Yes, I'm in week 4.
Okay, week 4 now. So we're going to chat about that, how that's going for you, some challenges, some things that you liked, etc. So first of all, let's talk about what reverse dieting is. And I'm curious, Tiffany, is anyone on this Facebook Live right now?
Not yet,
Okay.
but if
All
you
right.
do pop on, say hi.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions about reverse dieting, just comment below. Tiffany's going to monitor the questions. If you're watching this video replay because you couldn't make the live, but you still have questions, fire away in the comment section. We will be monitoring it over the coming week.
So Maureen just hopped in. She said, I'm here.
Awesome. Hi, Maureen. So reverse dieting. For a while, it was done frequently. And now there's been a recent backlash against it. We are going to talk about situations where you'd want to reverse diet and why we use it in specific programs. But first, what is reverse dieting? A lot of people have never heard of it before. And a reverse diet is a term used in bodybuilding communities. It really came from competitive weightlifting communities and bodybuilding communities where people had to make weight for a competition or event. And so they would diet down, often quite harshly and for extended periods of time. And what it refers to is basically after a calorically restricted eating period, you want to slowly bring back the calories to maintenance level. A slow reverse diet is going to keep you in a calorie deficit longer. And traditionally, a reverse diet would take months and months. We don't take that long with our clients. And the reason is we don't want to keep them in a calorie deficit for too long. The theory behind a reverse diet is that after prolonged periods of restricting your calorie intake, your body, your metabolism starts to adapt and operate more efficiently, which means that you actually can actually have your metabolism slow down by as much as 15% for several months, even after a diet ends, because of the adaptations that have taken place through a very low calorie diet. These adaptations are not as extreme when people just kind of diet normally and don't have a severe calorie deficit, which is why we, in the Transformer program, where people are consuming a very low calorie diet in order to lose weight rapidly, we always reverse diet our clients because it has the potential to cause more metabolic disruption and hormonal changes. For example, when you diet for a really long time, testosterone goes down, thyroid function goes down, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, goes up, and leptin goes down, which is the satiety hormone. So there's these hormonal adaptations that are taking place, and some of them can be negative. And you don't want to be in a very low calorie diet for too prolonged a time because of the severity of the metabolic adaptations. A reverse diet helps you adapt and reverse those adaptations as you come out, and you increase calories. So we increase calories strategically every week. We check in with our clients every week to see how they're doing. And if their weight is just kind of staying the same or they keep losing weight, we add in more calories. And we keep adding calories until they stabilize and are able to maintain their weight loss on as many calories as possible. And the theory and the hope with this is that they're going to find their sweet spot to maintain their weight forever, and they don't have a big jump on the scale, right? By increasing calories incrementally, a reverse diet, it really allows your metabolism to reignite and catch up with the surplus of calories. If we gave people too many calories too soon, let's say they were at 900 calories and then we jumped them up to 1800 calories the next day, the body, well, what's going to happen on the scale is you're going to have a big pop on the scale, pretty much water weight, but still it's very disheartening for people to see a big jump on the scale after they've been dieting. So we do this structured post-diet plan with our clients to prevent rapid weight regain and discomfort, which can lead to, you know, dissatisfaction with their results. And there are also a lot of other really valid reasons why, and we'll go into that at the end, that we actually recommend a reverse diet for people coming out of a very low calorie diet. And most of these are physical, but there are some mental reasons as well. But we normally spend about 4 weeks, sometimes as long as 7 or 8 weeks with some clients, reverse dieting them back to maintenance levels so they can max out their calories and their hormones can sort of come back online. That, you know, testosterone improves, thyroid function improves, ghrelin improves, leptin improves, that kind of thing. Is there anything I missed?
No, but I think that it's great that you mentioned that for some people it could take 4 weeks. For some people it could take 7 to 8 weeks to do the reverse diet process. And I just want to say that the reason for this is because everyone responds metabolically differently, if that makes sense. Some people's metabolism can, boom, recover immediately. Some people, it takes a little bit longer for their metabolism to catch up with what they're offering their body. So instead of being able to increase their macros or their calories every week, we have to increase every 2 weeks. With some clients, we've seen a small jump on their weight in their weight, not a big one. So we have to have them hold there. And then we say, well, let's see what happens next week. Stay consistent and let's see what happens. And then the next week, they'll have a drop and another loss and be even lower than where they were. So at that point, we're like, okay, we can definitely continue to increase. So it does take time. It does take consistency. And during the reverse diet process, it's very, very important that you maximize your caloric intake. So when you're dieting, it's kind of like, oh, I don't have to eat all of my calories. I can stay a little bit under because if I'm hungry, I don't want to stuff myself. But with the reverse diet process, we're kind of like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you need to stuff yourself even if you're not feeling very hungry. It's very important for you to hit those macro goals and maybe even go slightly above them.
Yeah, for health reasons. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right, well, let's get Elizabeth's opinion on the reverse diet experience, the pros and cons and things like that. I'd love to hear from you, Elizabeth, on what it's been like for you this last month. So Tiffany, you have some questions you want to ask her?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. And guys, Elizabeth is currently in one of our programs and she volunteered to come on and speak with you guys and tell you about her personal experience. Elizabeth has been rocking her reverse diet. It's been fantastic to see. She's one of the lucky people where, 4 weeks in and we've been able to increase her macros each and every week. And some of the great things about Elizabeth's progress is each week she has focused on trying to hit those macros pretty spot on and making sure that she is increasing her macros each week. So that's been fantastic. I want to congratulate you on that so far. Something else that we have noticed with Elizabeth is that during the reverse diet process, you've dropped another, 5 pounds?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's been pretty exciting and unexpected, because sometimes we say 2 to 3 pounds can be expected, but you're a little above that average. So we'll get into a little bit of the why we think that is as well. But the very first question that I have for you is, what have you found the most challenging about the reverse diet process?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think when I was in the more strict diet area, I was really trying to make sure I stayed, within my macros or below. And I would just tell myself, this is all you can eat at this point. But when I got into the reverse diet, to your point, I had to think about consciously, I need to eat more, even if I don't exactly feel like I want to. Knowing that I had so much more carbohydrates and so much more fat than I was having before, that it made an impact in consciously making a decision to eat more.
Yeah, that's
awesome. How was your hunger during, it sounds like you weren't very hungry coming out of a very low calorie diet. You weren't feeling too hungry, maybe not always wanting to eat all the food that Tiffany was telling you to eat. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think each week my hunger became less and less of definitely like when it was time to eat, I felt like I wanted to eat, but I didn't feel the level of hunger that I had before. Yeah.
Right. So you're satisfied with a small amount of food. And you probably, if you were left to your own devices, I'm guessing you could have just been like, that's enough. I don't want to eat anymore. And might have not eaten anywhere close to maintenance. Like you would have undereaten.
For sure, for sure, I would have undereaten, especially when I looked at the number of carbs and fat that I had available to me. I don't think I would have necessarily tried to eat as many carbohydrates and fat.
Oh, well, I'm so curious. Tell us why. Is that because you weren't hungry, or is that because psychologically you're like, if I ate all these carbs, I'm going to regain the weight? Like, was there fear around that?
Yeah. So in the past, I've done a lot of like low carb dieting, and carbs to me have always, and had a very bad perspective in my mind, negative of, oh my gosh, carbs mean weight gain, and that's that's not true. And so I've had to consciously tell myself it's okay to have carbohydrates. It's okay to have a little bit of fat. And
Yeah.
so that's been good for me to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you,
Excellent.
would you mind sharing with everyone how many carbs you're eating per day right now? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, sure. So this week I'm currently my macros, just pulling it up for 1 second. So I'm scheduled to eat 120 grams of protein, 120 grams of carbs, and 150 grams of carbs and 60 grams of fat. So 150 grams of carbs is a lot for me.
I think it's funny because like 100 grams of carbs or less a day is still considered a low carb diet. So, but we get a lot of people who have been eating for years trying to keep their carbs under 100, and yet they're struggling with their weight, and they have such a negative relationship with food and carbohydrates. And I think like this process has been really healing for you to realize and recognize that carbs are not the devil. They're not going to magically make you gain weight. You're able to like have a little bit of carbs and see, oh my goodness, the scale still went down. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
I
great.
think the day that I had some rice, I was almost going to have panic attack of like, oh no, what's going to happen to the scale tomorrow? I had some rice with my dinner and it went down, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we love about this process. And it's something we really want all of our clients in the Transformer program to go through for like reasons like you're mentioning. It helps them build a better relationship with food and demystifies nutrition. So this is so great to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So the next question that I have for you is, what have you enjoyed the most about the reverse diet process?
Oh my gosh. I felt a sense of freedom. Freedom in choosing to have more foods and be able to have the flexibility to try new foods and know that my macros aren't too limiting, so that I could try like all kinds of different, fruits and vegetables, different meats, different, yeah.
Yeah, because when you're in P2, your carbs and your fats are pretty low. So that limits you on your protein choices, and it limits you on how much fruit you can have, because fruit can be really high in carbs. The downside to that is that fruit has so many health benefits because of the micronutrients. If you don't know what micronutrients are, they are the breakdown of the food. It's the vitamins, minerals, things like that that's inside that food. So those are all things that are healthy for you to have. But when you're in a very low calorie diet, they don't always fit the plan very well. So it's great that you're able to increase that and you're enjoying that as well. So as we've mentioned, macros for you have gone up each and every week. So how have you kind of planned for that change in your macros for each week?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you know, if I was really strategic about it, I would actually put my kind of different meals together and say, these are different meals I like, and then plan it all out very nice, neatly in terms of hitting those macros. But what I'm a little bit more agile in my approach. So I know foods that I like and enjoy. And so as I'm building out in my fitness pal, you know, this is things I'd like to eat for breakfast, seeing how it hits my my macros before I eat it, before I put it in my mouth. And then even as I get into lunchtime, I start planning a little bit for dinner of, okay, what can I then make sure? So when I start to see that I have leftover macros in certain areas, like if I have very high amounts of carbs, I think about, okay, what are all kinds of other carbohydrates that I could eat? Like what kind of fruits could I add here? If I have just really high protein that I'm not getting enough, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I could have a protein shake later. So, or if I have really high fat, then I try to think about something that might be focused in on fat, like maybe avocado or something to add in to ensure that I'm hitting those specific targets.
I think
I
that's
think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic that you mentioned that you're keeping foods that you enjoy in the house and readily available, because a lot of people are like, I don't really like this, but I'm going to do it anyway because it helps me hit my macros. I've heard of people eating plain butter just to hit their fat goal.
Oh.
And that's not enjoyable. So the fact that you're making sure that you're being mindful of looking ahead, at least day to day, and trying to pre-plan things and increasing certain foods during different meals, that's really good. I like that.
I like that you're able to be agile, that you've mastered these macros enough that you're able to go, well, I got about 25 grams of carbs, so that's a banana or an apple pretty much, and just fit it in. It shows that you've mastered your ABCs of macronutrients already, so you can be nimble, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So throughout the entire program, your macros have been, I guess this kind of goes in there, but your macros have been kind of all over the place, very low to very high. What do you think has helped you consistently hit your macro goals? And I think that kind of goes back to how you plan for it, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of, learning through the program that you have, I've been able to really learn more about nutrition, what I'm, getting from each of, different foods, and using the scale. That's, and really measuring things. I don't think I have understood in the past, measuring at the level that I do, and how important it is to really measure things down to the gram of what it is, and not always trust exactly what's on the box or the label to say this is how much you're getting, and measuring spoons and measuring cups. The scale has been really helpful in that way.
Yeah, the more accurate you can be, instead of eyeballing it, the better the results. The faster the weight comes off, the better the results, for sure. And have you gotten to the point where you're getting better at eyeballing it though? Because one thing we encourage people to do is at some point, like look at that chicken breast and just guess how many protein macros are in it before you weigh it. So eventually you get to the point where you could just look at something and you kind of know the macros in it. That's where you've really mastered it. So are you playing that game where you start eyeballing it and guessing before you measure it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm also starting to do more and more is that if I look at grams, which is probably seems like the most accurate in measurement, I try to flip the scale over to say, okay, what does that equate to in ounces or in milligrams or something, or even cups, because sometimes when you're going to a restaurant, they're not going to tell you how many ounces this or grams this is. They may say this is so many ounces. So I'm trying to actually, my mind kind of transfer those different amounts in different type of measurements so that I get a sense for it when I'm out, and about.
That
is smart. Yeah,
so,
that's great.
And that's something that I've noticed too, is most meats is 112 to 113 grams per 4 ounces. So, but keep in mind, that's raw weight, not cooked weight. So there will be some variance in that, but the fact that that ballpark guess is going to be really helpful. Because if you go to a steakhouse and have a 9-ounce steak, Generally that 9-ounce steak is the raw weight whenever they are putting it on the menu too. So it might come out and only be, 5 or 6
7
ounces.
ounces. Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally the meat shrinks about 25%. I hadn't really thought about that. I always thought it was cooked, to be honest. When somebody said you're going to get like a 6-ounce steak, I thought that was cooked. Ah, yeah, but it's better for them to say 6 ounce, but actually it's raw.
Yep.
Because then they don't have to give you as much meat. Yeah. All right, interesting. See, I learned something today.
Hey, you're welcome. So that's great. I have a couple more questions for you. How do you feel that your energy has changed throughout this process?
Yes, it's definitely increased. I could tell a difference. I mean, there's a lot of other factors going on with me, just, health-wise, but I noticed that when I started eating more macros, I could exercise more. And I had the energy and I knew that because I had the energy to exercise and I had the macros to say I'm not getting too low of a daily allowance, that I felt the freedom to be able to say, okay, instead of going on just a 30-minute walk, I can go on, a 5-mile walk and go walk for an hour and a half and I wouldn't worry about it, so it definitely gave me a lot more freedom in that.
Yeah, I think that that's important to note too, because, what we've had happen is we have clients go through the reverse diet process and we keep increasing and keep increasing and keep increasing their calories and they're still losing weight. And it turns out that as we're increasing their calories, they're increasing their activity levels. And obviously, the more active you are, the more calories your body burns and uses throughout the day. So the more active you are, the more calories your body needs to maintain. So that's probably part of the reason why you have lost 5 pounds in the reverse diet process, is because you have continued to kick up your activity a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important to note for people listening that not everybody responds to extra calories with more movement. Like it varies on the individual. So some people get more food and they become the Energizer Bunny and they feel like they have to move. They have to go exercise. Some people, you can increase 1,000 calories and they'll maintain their weight. 1,000 calories over what they thought their maintenance calories were. And then other people, they're just more couch potatoes. They don't move as much. So you cannot give them too many calories because then they will start gaining extra weight. So generally the people who lose the most during the reverse diet are the ones who start moving more, exercising more. It's very individual. And this is why we work one-on-one with every client to reverse diet them. You check in every week and then the coach looks at the macros and looks at the log and you have a discussion about raising them or keeping them the same.
Yeah. So the last question that I have for you here, Elizabeth, is about food sensitivities. We have a lot of clients that come to us and they say, well, I can't have gluten. I can't have this. I can't have that. So what we ask them to do is during the reverse diet process, could you try adding in something that you don't think you can have? Listen to what your body says or how your body reacts, and then see if maybe it wasn't that was causing the issue. So have you noticed that you thought you had some food sensitivities and now you've added something back in and it hasn't really affected you like you thought it would?
It's interesting because I do have I've been tested with some food sensitivities in the past, and the ones that came out higher were definitely like gluten and dairy, but dairy hasn't, I've had just a little bit, and it's been more in that kind of space of like the yogurts and the,
Hard cheeses.
Yeah.
Cheeses people can tolerate usually pretty well.
Yeah, I have it. And what's interesting about this too is I used to love to eat cheese all the time. And it's, I haven't had a ton of craving to eat cheese. So, I have a little bit, but it's been like, I just haven't had the craving. So, I could test it out more for sure to learn more about how my body's handling it. I think that would be good for me to learn. but yeah, it's surprising how well my body even handles those kind of things like yogurt and cottage cheese, and I'm seem to be fine with it and no issues.
I'd like to just speak to that a little bit more for people who are listening. People who generally are lactose intolerant can tolerate yogurt and small servings of dairy quite well. Sometimes you create a lactose intolerance by actually eliminating foods, because then you stop getting the enzyme in your stomach to actually tolerate those foods. So you create it, you manifest it. Similarly, for gluten sensitivities, 86% of people who think they have a gluten sensitivity don't. And this is done in randomized controlled placebo trials where they actually told people, they had them drink something and they're like, we're just going to measure your reaction to this substance that contains gluten. And people were like breaking out in hives and holding their stomachs and like, oh, I feel awful. But it didn't have any gluten in it. They tricked them. So a lot of this was just manifested psychologically. And then similarly, they would give them a substance that, and even the scientists didn't know who was getting what. So this is how you do the double-blind study. And then they would give them a substance to drink and they would say it doesn't contain any gluten, and people were fine. And people who thought they had a gluten sensitivity. It has become a billion-dollar industry for people. There's a ton of marketing and there's a lot of celebrities out there preaching a gluten-free lifestyle. And, but in reality, 86% of people who think they have a gluten sensitivity actually don't. And we want to encourage people to like try different foods and bring them out again slowly. Now, if you have an allergy that's different, we wouldn't want you to compromise your health. But we've had people have toast for the first time in like 2 years. And they almost cry because it's like, I can have bread again. And I didn't realize how much I missed it. I thought it was causing these health problems, but actually I was totally fine. So it's such a great part of the process. Freedom. It's all about freedom.
Yeah,
I agree.
So do you have any more questions, Tiff?
No, that was those were all of my questions that I had. Elizabeth, I didn't know if you had anything else that we didn't cover that you may want to specifically share.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved this program, namely because a couple of things. I've been in my life, I've dieted so much, like on and off, kind of roller coaster, and the idea of kind of feeling like I'm in this plan of reverse dieting and helping me to come back to just really maintaining my weight has been so helpful and eye-opening for me. And I would say that I know it looks like I'm pretty active now, but I've not always been that way. I've not always been someone who has been really super active. And so I know some people say, oh, well, like, maybe she always exercised and she's just exercising again. Well, no, I mean, it's a new habit for me to walk every day. Like that wasn't like who I was. And so now it's like, being part of meeting people that like to walk and like to be, have exercise has been a new part of my life. And so I think it's been really, really helpful for me overall, and just love learning about the nutrition, exercise, and all the things that go into it.
That's awesome, Elizabeth. So it has really changed your habits towards exercise and nutrition, and you've adopted a new habit of walking every day. You're also playing tennis. What else do you do? Is that it? I mean, that's cool if that's it. I'm happy when people find something they enjoy like tennis, because it means they just get in more movement. But what do you do so people who are listening know?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do walking. Some of the exercises that I'm really interested in that I used to do a lot have been related to dance. I love all forms of dance. I love water sports. So paddle boarding, kayaking, boarding, all of those things I love. And I love bicycle riding. So, I mean, there's lots of activities for me to continue to evolve into and to spend time. And, I'm excited about also just really lifting weights a little bit too, just to kind of build some muscle tone as I'm continuing to evolve in my new body composition. So looking for that, looking forward to that lean muscle.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Elizabeth. We really appreciate it. Glad the reverse diet's been such a positive experience for you. I know people really fear it when they're coming off of P2 and a very low calorie diet. They're so afraid of regaining the weight that they lost. That hasn't been our experience with anybody, you know, and I think that the reverse diet is probably the best part of the program.
Yeah,
Just because it means freedom.
absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I think let's, if you want to take off, feel free. If you want to hang out, feel free. I wanted to just cover which programs we do the reverse diet on. So we only do it in the Transformer program. And we do that because people are coming from 800 to 1,000 calories, and then they have to go up, sometimes double or more. And so we're coming from a very low calorie diet where people's metabolisms have the strongest chance of slowing down the most. But when we do the New You and 2x2 programs, we don't do any reverse diet. People just jump into maintenance. So I just wanted to share that with you. Now, if you're interested in working with us, you know, in the Transformer program, that's part of the package. If you have done P2 or a very low calorie diet, I'm talking sub 1,200 calories, and you are interested in reverse dieting, then you can do the new program, and the add-on at checkout is a reverse diet for an extra $100. And our coaches can do the reverse diet with you and get you to maintenance. So we max out your calories, you feel good. And it's just, I would highly recommend it if you've been on a very low calorie diet to do that. So why we reverse diet? There's several reasons. And I mentioned at the beginning of this talk how reverse dieting was typically done with bodybuilders coming out of a competition where they had very low body fat levels and had been dieting for a really long time. And it was a slow increase in calories every week, but sometimes this would go on for 6 months. Like they would give them 10 grams of carbs extra a week, and then the next week you'll get an extra 10 grams of carbs. We jump people up faster than that. So the reason that we jump people up faster than that is we want to get them to maintenance and restore their hormones as quickly as possible. So here are the reasons why we reverse diet. Do we want to maybe discuss that? I think you got a feel for it with Elizabeth, but one of the big things is it can be overwhelming coming from a very low calorie diet, and now you're expected to eat a whole bunch of food. Your appetite is still pretty low, right? And so let's say you had, I don't know, how many calories were you at, Elizabeth, when you were on P2?
860.
Okay, so imagine jumping you up to 1,750 the next day. You would feel like you're force feeding yourself. Like you wouldn't feel good at all jumping up so quickly. So
yeah, I think that because like she said, is that some days she had to eat even when she wasn't hungry, and you're basically doubling your caloric intake instead of going up by a couple hundred calories. And that could be so overwhelming. And I mean, honestly, let's think about how your body would feel if you went from eating not a lot of food to feeling like you're gorging yourself, because that's how it would feel. There's probably going to be some bloating, some digestive discomfort, and other things that are going to go into that. So that
lethargy. Yeah. It's ironic, but believe it or not, when we even jump people up 200 calories, they often complain that it's so much food, right? And it sounds ridiculous. It's only 200 calories, but let me tell you, the appetite suppression when you eat under 1,000 calories is a thing. And so jumping up 200 calories can feel like I'm force feeding myself. So we take you, step by step. Another thing that we talked about with Elizabeth is healing your relationship with food. We get a lot of people who don't have a great relationship with food when they come and work with us. They have this idea that carbs are evil, can't have this food or I'll gain weight, you know, a bunch of things. So this reverse dieting process can make people realize, geez, I can actually have yogurt and be fine, or a piece of toast and I'm not going to gain weight. And that is freedom. You know, one of our things we say is it's not about the weight you lose, it's about the freedom you gain. And the reverse diet can really open up people's minds to new possibilities of what they can eat. Yeah. Especially if they've had a low carb background. Under eating, let's face it, if you have been on P2, you're probably very afraid of regaining the weight you lost, or any diet. And there's a very good chance of people under eating for too long, which means that their hormones continue to be, you know, have adapted downward for most of the hormones. And so it's just not good for your health. You're also not getting a lot of nutrients, which is important for good health. And so if you continue to undereat for a long period of time, it's not good for your muscle, your bone density, your skin, your hair. It's not good for your health, your energy, because what happens when you undereat, you don't feel like exercising. You don't feel like moving. You don't have the energy for it. And exercise is so beneficial for your health and your muscle tone and things like that. So by strategically increasing calories every week, say over a period of 4 to 8 weeks, we get people out of that under eating mentality. They see that they can still maintain their weight on higher calories, and it's a relief for them. Because let's face it, people really don't know what their maintenance is. They really have no idea. They're just in the dark about that. And so this whole process really clearly gets people understanding what range they need to be at to maintain their weight. We talked about food sensitivities. You might find that as you bring back certain foods, you have a sensitivity to a food, or you don't have a sensitivity to a food. So it creates this awareness. And if you ate a bunch of food, if you went from 860 calories to, you know, double, you could be eating a whole bunch of new foods that you haven't eaten in a while. And you have a reaction and not know what you're sensitive to. Or maybe you assume you're having a reaction when it's just that your tummy's really full and you're bloated because of the amount of food volume that you have. Another thing is it allows you to phase in activity. If you jumped your calories really a lot, you're probably going to feel lethargic. You know, people who overeat chronically tend to actually not have a lot of energy because they're always digesting food. A lot of energy goes into digesting food. So by increasing calories slowly and then adding in more activity every week, you actually feel energized and well fueled for the exercise that you want to do. And Elizabeth, I believe that's what you did. You started extending your walks to like 5 miles one day. And then desire is there to do so. It's not like you're forcing yourself. It's just like, I have this energy, I got to put it somewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. I mean, you know, you all were telling me when I was doing P2, it's good to get some exercise. And so the first time I started walking, I had to really consciously tell myself, okay, you need to get up and walk and make sure you walk. So I had to like consciously tell myself to do that. And so I was trying to plan it. And then it just became more of a natural thing where, okay, it's, you know, I'm going to walk today. Of course I'm going to walk today, you know, and then it became like, oh my gosh, I want to walk longer because I enjoy it. I love being outside. I love gives me a chance to relax. So it just became something that I had a different mindset after a while about.
Right. At first it was a duty, and then it became a habit, and then it became a desire. And I think the desire to exercise is not going to be there unless you're adequately fueled. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people eating in an inadequate way, and no wonder they're not recovering from exercise well, or they have no desire to move. And again, getting to find out what your calorie range is really useful. And like some people I think have this misconception that I'm going because of a calculator they found online. They're like, oh, I can only eat 1,800 calories to maintain my weight. If I go over, I'm going to gain weight. No, you learn it's a fluid thing depending on sleep and activity levels and stress, but people usually have a range, and it might be 1,700 to 2,000 calories for you, Elizabeth, depending how active you are one week. And you can find that you can comfortably maintain your weight as long as you stay in that range and keep your activity levels roughly the same. But it is a very fluid thing, and people learn that. Is there anything I missed there, Tiffany?
No, I don't think so. There were a couple questions in the comments people would like Elizabeth to answer. One of which is asking for your height and weight. If you don't feel comfortable answering that, you do not have to. And then the other one is, are you using the Arborleaf scale? And if you are, have you noticed that you've gained muscle throughout this process, or have you lost a little bit of muscle?
And you could also just tell us how much weight you lost in P2 and the reverse diet if you prefer not to share your actual weight.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll share. I'm 5'7.5", so I mean that gives you a sense of approximately where I should be. But I have to tell you that I've lost overall. I lost around 21 to 22 pounds, and in the reverse diet, part of that I lost 5 pounds. So which was more than I expected, really. But I'll tell you, all of my body composition numbers, even my visceral fat and my metabolic age, sorry, they're all in the good space. And my muscle, I've had a lot of questions about the muscle because my muscle storage ability level has always been really good. And so I think that's been helpful for me because I've when I've been eating the protein and I make sure I hit my protein goal, that has really helped me to maintain my muscle. I don't know if I actually gained muscle as much, but I know that I didn't lose very much muscle throughout the process.
And ultimately, that's our goal with the higher protein is we don't necessarily want you or think that you should be gaining muscle right now because it's not realistic when you're in a caloric deficit to gain muscle. Very rarely does that happen. But our goal is to help you maintain the muscle mass that you have and limit how much you lose because with any deficit, there's going to be a little bit of muscle loss. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, to only 10% of our clients actually gain muscle in P2. And typically they tend to have higher levels of body fat because the body fat tissue is very protective of muscle loss. People who are leaner lose proportionally more muscle than people who are heavier. And, you know, so there's these outliers where they actually gain muscle during P2, which is always fascinating to me. But when you lose weight, your body is actually cannibalizing itself in order to get energy. So it's breaking down fat tissue and muscle tissue as a form of energy when it senses there's not enough calories coming in from food. So it burns up your tissue as calories, which sounds gross, but what we want to do, and with our protocol, we just try to limit the amount of muscle tissue that's being used and maximize fat tissue loss. I'm glad to hear you didn't lose much muscle, Elizabeth. That's great. I think walking really helps too. Yeah.
Walking and strength training.
Yeah.
Anytime you high protein to move that muscle, then your body says, oh, I need this. So maybe I'll keep this and take the calories that I need from somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's another question over here, and this is just a general question. Jeannie said she's nervous because she has had great energy on the low calories most days, and she's already been exercising a lot. So she's nervous that adding calories to her body, but her body has already adapted to where she is. So I think that for that one, I think Jeannie, that you're just gonna, I think that when you're still on a very low calorie diet, you get kind of used to having a lower energy level and you just kind of function with it. But as you increase those calories, you're really going to see a huge change. So I don't think your body's necessarily adapted to that, but I think that you're going to have more energy and you're going to go, whoa, maybe I didn't have that much energy. Now I have a ton of energy. And at that point, your exercise is probably going to get a bit more intense. You're going to be able to push a little bit harder. And I think that's going to be very rewarding for you. And it's fantastic that you've been exercising and feeling great energy wise already.
Yeah, you're one of the lucky ones that does really well in a very low calorie diet where your energy doesn't tank. That's awesome. I think it's kind of like people who say, well, no, I function really well on 6 hours of sleep. And you're like, just try to get 7 or 8 hours. And they do. And they're like, I felt like Superwoman today. Like they had no idea what they were missing out on. So when you get a bit more food, like Tiffany says, you're probably just going to feel amazing.
She said, good news. I'm excited.
Good, good. Well, any other questions?
That was it on here.
All right. Well, we took almost an hour. Really appreciate your time, Elizabeth. Is there anything else you'd like to say or advice you'd like to give people who have never done a reverse diet or are thinking about going into one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say trust the process and just, enjoy trying new foods.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah. All right. Well, really appreciate your time today. Thanks to everyone who attended and asked questions. We will be monitoring the comments. If you have any other questions, happy to answer them. We are going to be accepting applications for the Transformer program, which launches 3 times a year, September 4th. So you can get on the wait list for that. And we will send you a notification when we start accepting applications. All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Take care, Tiffany. Bye-bye.
Bye.